Welcome back, everybody. Great to have you back here with me today. It's our second Cabral HouseCall of the weekend, answering all of our community's questions. Each and every weekend, we get to, I guess not all of them, we get to about somewhere between 10 and 12 every weekend. I'm always, of course, very cognizant of your time, trying to make the shows just about 15 minutes because I know how busy everybody's lives are. But my goal is to answer your wellness, your weight loss, your weight gain, your anti-aging based questions, and of course everything in between, and do that every single weekend. So week in and week out. It takes about 10 to 12 weeks to get your question read aloud. And lo and behold, we are now here. So let's dive right into the show. First question is from Summer. Again, just getting these questions. I don't do any prep work for them. It's just as if you and I bumped into each other, at a cafe, one of my favorite cafes, or, at an event or something like that. And you just come up with me a question. I'm going to give you a couple answers as to where I think you might want to get started. But of course, no medical advice, medical treatment plans, medical cures, or medical diagnosis of any kind. All right, Summer's up. Hi, Doc. Would love to hear your thoughts on calcium hydroxide or pickling lime, mainly for preserving eggs. Hens naturally slow way down in egg production in the winter, so I'm looking for ways to preserve our excess farm eggs during the summer to have in the winter. Preserving the raw eggs and pickling lime is one option, and I'm just not sure whether it's a good idea or not. Basically, you submerge clean, raw, unwashed, dry, day-old eggs or freshly laid eggs in a solution of 1 ounce of lime to 1 quart water in jars and buckets. They're supposed to be good for up to 1 year and can be used just like a fresh egg. Just a bit skeptical of calcium hydroxide. Thanks for everything. Yeah, this is a great question. I really love sustainability. I love homesteading. It's not something that I do, but I love the idea of it. I love being self-sufficient. I really do. I love that. I've looked into this in the past. I'm not an expert by any way, shape, or form, and I always like to let you know that. So although this is a bit out of my scope of, practice and kind of my so-called expertise, what I'll say is this. For the most part, calcium hydroxide does not necessarily look like a good thing to be using with our food in the, in overall usage, consuming a lot of it. Here's what it does though, for those people that don't know about it. Basically, eggshells are somewhat porous. And what the calcium hydroxide does, or the pickling lime, it seals up the shell. And so you can't get the oxygen in there to basically make the egg go rotten, make it go bad. And so it preserves it for a year or maybe even more. I would be careful because there's been issues with botulism. Again, I don't know if that's overstated, but at least a few with pickled eggs, or I shouldn't say pickled eggs because you can actually take the egg out and then pickle the egg. That's a different story. So you can literally pickle an egg, you can cook it and then pickle it. But anyway, that's a different thing. You're saying how to preserve raw eggs. So there's been issues with raw eggs that have been preserved in this way in the past. And so it's not something I would personally do. All right. So that's kind of my answer. I wouldn't personally do it. It doesn't mean you shouldn't, but I wouldn't personally do it. And I totally get with the egg production slowing way down in the winter. So I understand. Unfortunately, that's the best answer I have for you right now is be careful if you do proceed. Patty's up next. Hi, hope all is well. Any connection with calcium supplements and breast cancer? Thank you. There could be. So there very well could be. And it's not calcium supplementation. That's really what we have to be careful of. So back in the 70s and 80s, and it was really more towards the 80s. So now we're going back 50 plus years, right? Medical doctors would prescribe calcium carbonate to women 40 years and older, sometimes maybe in their 30s. And they'd recommend that with really good intentions. And the good intentions were that bones need calcium. And so if you're going to suffer from bone loss literally every single year, then why not give calcium? The problem is that calcium carbonate, I actually don't have a problem with it if you're looking to use it in a specific way, like alkalizing the body. And I know that we like to get into these crazy arguments over alkaline and acid. Honestly, the science is pretty straightforward. The blood maintains a certain pH of about 7.356. And there's different compartments of the body, though, that have different levels of alkalinity, such as extracellular milieu, as well as intracellular cytoplasm, etc. So I don't want to get down into that debate today, but I always have to give that caveat because someone will always say, well, there's no such thing as acid. I'm like, there is, right? So the body uses calcium as one of its main alkalizing electrolytes if it were to need it if your blood becomes a little bit too acidic. It has its own backup mechanism to actually balance it, such as drinking a can of soda or something like that. It's going to use your own minerals. Okay, having said that, the issue really comes with this. Using calcium without using magnesium. Like, that's the truth. That's why I really am not a huge fan of single nutrient supplements. Do I use them in my practice? Yes. But I always use them in conjunction with a foundational product like daily nutritional support. So will I give extra, methylfolate or methylcobalamin sometimes, like B9 and B12? Yeah, I will, but only when someone's using daily activated multivitamin or daily nutritional support, because it includes everything, right? Because the body doesn't use a nutrient in isolation. Calcium is partners with, or it's technically an antagonist to magnesium, but they also do help each other. So they're friends, right? They work with each other, but they're also antagonists. So what you want to do is you want to take calcium and magnesium together. And then the magnesium will help the calcium get out of the bloodstream and more towards the bones. Now, can calcium also settle in the tissues, such as the breast tissue? Potentially it looks that way. Unfortunately, potentially it looks that way. So I would be careful without taking a product, like using a product, instead of just straight calcium, use a product more like Cal Mag Complete. And also then get a lot of calcium from natural whole food as well. And there are a lot of plant-based products as well, like foods, that will get you calcium too. So hopefully that's helpful. All right, Lacey's up next. Diagnosed with early onset osteoporosis, was only told I need to go on a pill, and that still wouldn't fix it. What are lifestyle tips and steps to take to change this diagnosis? Okay, lots of podcasts to help on osteoporosis. Those are at stephencabral.com/podcasts. Just use the search box and type in osteoporosis or bone loss. If you can't find them, head on over to cabralsupportgroup.com, ask your questions right there. We'll get you those podcasts for you. We're happy to do that. It's a service that we like to provide. For you, my team is happy to provide that. So here's just quick tips. And this would go for, it would go for calcium utilization and much more. Weight training, 2 to 3 times a week for men and women. Like, really important. Women have been told for years that they shouldn't do weight training. They're going to build big muscles and all these things. Again, no, that does not happen. And not without the presence of high testosterone, growth hormone, et cetera, et cetera. Osteoporosis, need to be weight training, need to be using vitamin D, vitamin K, calcium, magnesium. We've got, we have bone support products over in my virtual office. You can find all of them at stephencabral.com/shop. The easiest thing to do literally is just use the daily nutritional support plus the Cal Mag Complete plus the bone care product. Again, I'm not giving medical advice, but then you also want to add weight training. You want to increase hydration. You want to improve sleep. Like, there's the whole de-stress protocol. So if you haven't read The Rain Barrel Effect yet, that's a great place to start too. It's also free at stephencabral.com. All right. And then if you want the book internationally, it's available at stephencabral.com/shop. All right. Noreen's up next. Hello, Dr. Cabral. Thank you for your commitment to health and well-being and for being such a great educator and practitioner. Thank you, Noreen. It's very kind of you. I've enjoyed your podcast for many years. Question, I have not seen you address or review the Terahertz healing wand or blower. I heard about it earlier this year via the Budwig Center, which I follow, and then recently from a distributor. Gather it has been in the States for a few years and coming into alternative healthcare practices. Should your interest and time permit, would love to hear what you think in a future podcast. God's best to you and yours. Same to you as well, Noreen. Best to you. Or God's best to you, which is better than my best to you for sure. So I have not heard of the Terahertz healing wand, but I'm writing it down right now. And so that's why I love this community. Like, I have no idea what that is. I've never heard of it. Do I know the Budwig Center? Absolutely. If it's after Dr. Budwig, which is natural cancer-based protocol. So let me check that out. All right. Terahertz healing wand and blower. And what I'll do is if I feel, because I never speak negatively about another company ever, it's just not what I do. Like, I'd rather build people up than knock people down. So every Friday I do a Friday review of products that aren't my products, of all great companies doing great things. And so I'm going to check it out. And if I feel like, hey, this is something I think our community could benefit from, absolutely, I'm going to do a product review on it. So Noreen, thank you for bringing that to my attention. All right, we've got a question from Anonymous. Anonymous says, good morning, Dr. Rawl. I recently had a small leak in my water line underground in my front yard that was going on for around 3 months. During this time, I also noticed that water coming out of one of my faucets was slightly cloudy and sometimes had a very bad smell, like rotten eggs. I just had the leak identified and repaired, and the water is much clearer and odorless now. I always filter all the drinking and cooking water through my Berkey, but while the leak was going on, I was still exposed to certain unfiltered water. Dishwasher, shower, sink, brushing teeth. My main question, is it possible that something leached into the water supply that could have affected my metabolism? During this time, my metabolism slowed a crazy amount, even though same exercise and diet. Yeah, interesting, but it also could just be air in your water. So unless you identified what that cloudiness was, we don't know if it was anything harmful. And in my opinion, I always say, like, let's not worry about the unknown. Let's not worry about what we don't know. And let's even not worry about the past. Now, not worrying about the past does not mean that we shouldn't take care of our present, right? This present, as I don't like that. I say this all the time, but it's not my line. This present is a gift, right? So let's not worry. Let's take advantage of it. Nobody knows what tomorrow will bring, right? We live in the forever today. So what I want you to think about is maybe running a lab test that you could potentially be worried about. The minerals and metals test is a great one to think about for heavy metals, just a couple hair snippets. We have a toxic heavy metals one, like a blood sample, which is just a couple finger pricks, one finger prick, that's it, a couple drops of blood, and urine. You can check that out as well. Those again are at stephencabral.com/shop. And that's maybe what I would do to kind of put your fear at bay. And then if you didn't want to run any labs because of cost, totally understand. What I would do is then just a 7, 14, or 21 day functional medicine detox. And then that will help to just really ramp up detoxification of anything that might be in your system. All right, so that's what I would personally do. All right. We are actually going to keep it at that for today. I know today was a little bit of a shorter show, but I am looking at the next question right now, and it is a quite long one, and I do not want to shortchange anyone on the weekend edition of the show. So I thank you, I appreciate you, and I'll be back tomorrow on our Mindset and Motivation Monday. Have an amazing rest of the day. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. Before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I want to make sure that you're getting our daily content, not missing out on anything functional medicine, wellness, weight gain, weight loss, anti-aging, living longer, stronger, and all of the most cutting-edge research. And if there's any topics you want to hear, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Take care.